Parshas Vayelech, Shabbos Shuvah, Tavshin Tes. We get to say the new year, Tavshin Tes, which means that very soon it's actually a milestone for our Shir, for our Nesivos Shalom Shir. In about a month or two into Tavshin Tes, we're going to be doing our 10th year. Amazingly, 10th year of our Nesivos Shalom Shir. This was a Shir that was supposed to be for 1 week. And now we will, Amir Hashem, be going into our 10th year. Tremendous. Baruch Hashem. And we're at a time of the year where the Parshios of the year actually have to share the spotlight with the time of the year. We had Rosh Hashanah, this week Shabbos Shuvah, next week Yom Kippur. So what we're going to try to do is do Parshas Vayelech. And with Parshas Vayelech, we're going to try to get in a very important lesson for this time of the year too. And the Pasuk says in Parshas Vayelech, V'omar bayom hahu, they're going to say on that day, Haloi al ki'ein Elokai b'kirbi. We're going to realize that we have trouble in life sometimes. And we have things that are not going as we would like. And we're going to recognize that the reason is ki'ein Elokai b'kirbi. Because we do not have any godliness in us. We are separate from Hashem. It's only arois eila that the troubles have found us because we are not connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But then the Torah continues with something very, very interesting. Okay, we're going to recognize that our troubles are because we're not connected to Hashem. So what does the Torah tell us? Hashem is telling us that when you recognize that, I'm going to hide. Hashem's face is going to be hidden from us. And the Nesivos Shalom asks a very, very famous question that many Mefarshim ask on these psukim. It seems that the people and the masses are actually being misvadeh in the first pasuk. They're actually saying that because we do not have Hashem in our lives, we're having all these troubles. So why does the very next pasuk go ahead and say that Hashem is now going to hide from us? Why should Hashem hide from us now? We just recognized that the reason for our troubles is because we're not connected to Hashem. We're sort of being misvadeh. So the Ramban addresses this question, and the Ramban tells us, and the answer is that, you know what, this first pasuk is not an actual full vidui. It's not an actual full confession that they're doing over here, that Klal Yisrael is doing. What we're doing here in the first pasuk is just recognizing that they did something wrong. We recognize that, but they're not doing a full vidui. They're not being misvadeh wholeheartedly. It's not a full vidui, and therefore the Torah has to continue with the next pasuk and say, "V'onechi haster aster ponai." And what that pasuk does is that pasuk tells us is that we still have to have more charata. We still have to do a complete shuvah. So the Torah goes ahead and tells us that since it's only just a recognition, we need you to have a full vidui, and therefore, V'onechi haster aster ponai, Hashem says, I am still going to hide. You need a higher level of shuvah. Like the Rambam tells us that there are different levels of shuvah. And if we look a bit closer at the lashon of the pasuk, we understand this answer really, because the pasuk says that they're seeing that the troubles have come because they're not close enough and they don't have Hashem in their lives. But what we don't see in the pasuk is the fact that that Hashem was not in their life, it's bothering you. We're understanding that the troubles have come because we don't have Hashem in our lives. But what we don't see is that it really bothers us. Because actually, the biggest punishment, we've mentioned from the Nesivos Shalom many times, and many Mefarshim speak about it, that the biggest punishment for a Jew, the biggest punishment for any member of Klal Yisrael, is when when Hashem is not connected to us. That is really the biggest punishment. And a Jew, says in Nesivos Shalom, and a very important lesson for this time of the year also, a Jew needs to always believe that even if there is a proverbial fence up between a person and Hashem, it does not separate you from Hashem. Every person has to know that the only way you are ever disconnected from Hashem is if you want to be. If you do things and you do things that separate you from Hashem, if you do things wherever you've been and whatever you've done, you need to believe and you need to understand that you are never actually disconnected from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. A person is always connected, and any time that there is Hester Panim, where we do not see Hashem, and that Hashem, it seems that Hashem is hidden from us, it is like a father, says in Nesivos Shalom, who hides from their children. And when a father hides, when a parent hides from a child, you know what the interesting thing is? A parent hides from a child, but they never take their eye off the children. They never take their eyes off the child. And a smart child knows that his father will never ever abandon him. If you are a child, your parent will never ever abandon you. They may be hidden sometimes, and you may not see them, but they're keeping an eye on you. They are looking at you and always taking care of their children. And a person has to know that you can always daven to Hashem, and you can connect to Hashem no matter what you've done. And no matter where you've been, you have to believe, and that's part of Emunah. Part of Emunah is to believe that Hashem will always listen to you, and that you are never ever disconnected. A son and a father, a parent and a child can never totally disconnect. And the life of every Jew is filled with this nisyonos. Every Jew has their tests. Every single person in their own way. People struggle with different things, and people have different nisyonos in life. But the biggest nisyon is when for some reason we start to feel that disconnect, as the pasuk says, Ki eina lekai b'kirbi. We start to feel that disconnect from Hashem. And you know what Hashem is doing, says in Nesivos Shalom? Hashem is testing you to see how much you love and want and desire Hashem, that when you're challenged, are you going to go ahead and break down all those barriers? Are you going to go ahead and say, I still want to be close to you, Hashem. I'm not perfect, and I may do things wrong, but I want to daven to you, and I want to be closer to you. And during the life of a person, every challenge, and every hardship, and every aggravation, every, so to speak, wall, every mechitza that comes up between you and Hashem, you need to know that it's a challenge from Hashem. It's Hashem wanting to see if you're going to overcome those struggles, if you're going to try to fight and make your way back to be connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And really the hardest challenge is when you feel that you're far from Hashem. And it says in Nesivos Shalom a very, very interesting point. He says that feeling of being disconnected from Hashem, that feeling of being distant from Hashem, and especially at this time of the year, is exactly where the Yetzer Hara wants you. And more so than even getting a person to transgress something, even getting a person to understand that they have weaknesses, and even more than wanting a person to sin, the Yetzer Hara wants a person to be depressed. He cashes in more. He feels much more accomplished. It's much more worth it to the Yetzer Hara than the actual Avera that a person does. The feeling of distance and the feeling of resignation, because once a person feels distant and feels resigned, the Yetzer Hara has you exactly where he wants you. And that is exactly where our Emunah comes in, where we believe and we know that Hashem does not want us to be down. Hashem does not want us to ever feel that resignation. And if we do feel that we're not close to Hashem, Hashem wants us to struggle and to come back and say, you know what, Hashem, I want to connect with you anyway. I want to daven to you anyway. I want to come to you at this time of the year when you're close, and I want to remain with that closeness. Ki eina lekai b'kirbi. That is the beginning of our problems. That is the beginning of a person resigning. And that is exactly where the Yetzer Hara wants you. But the lesson for this time of the year is that Hashem hides only because He wants us to seek Him out. He wants us to find Him. And that is why the next pasuk, right after a person says, Ki eina lekai b'kirbi, we're realizing that the troubles we have is because we're not close to Hashem. So why does the next pasuk go ahead and say that Hashem's going to hide? Because that's the way back. Hashem is telling us that the way back to Hashem is when Hashem hides. And Hashem's going to hide because He wants us to have that desire and that fight within us, that emunah, to bring out our emunah, that now I'm hiding from you because I want you to come and find me. And that is really the important lesson from Parshas Vayelech at this time of the year that we need to keep in mind. We need to keep in mind that life is not always perfect. And we're not always going to feel, although it would be wonderful, we don't always feel that closeness to Hashem. And sometimes when we have troubles and we have problems, right away we start to blame it on different things in our lives, and we think we understand everything, and we think that maybe Chas v'shalom, Hashem is not being so good to us, quote, the way we see good, and we start to feel that we're a little distant from Hashem. And why would Hashem want to deal with me and talk to me? I'm such an imperfect person. So the next pasuk says, "V'anochi haster aster." Hashem is saying, you're going to prove to me now. I'm going to hide. I'm going to hide so you should come and seek me out. And it's with this lesson from this week's parsha. It's a short parsha, so we'll make it a little bit of a shorter shir. From this week's parsha, we could learn that in the next few days we have to prove our emunah and prove that we want to find our way back to be connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I want to wish everybody a Gemar Chasima Toiva. It should be a year of happiness and connection and feeling close to Hashem, as imperfect as we are. But we need to know that we're children, and children always remain children. Everybody should be Zoicha to Gmar Chasima Toiva and a good Geben Shiar.